What I see when I look at sound is an exhibition of 5 brand new artworks made by artists who cross the divide between sound and art. All of their practices tend to be both musical, visual, and they're experts at creating sonic, acoustically charged and visual environments. Sound, it crosses a whole lot of different boundaries between music, noise, silence, and art, I guess. And so I think that intersection, how the artists are sort of riffing across all those different zones, is what's interesting.
So for every light bulb, there's going to be a light-dependent resistor. Yeah, and so each light bulb has one of these basically looking at it. And so the idea is that when it's in its installation mode, we just play like one pattern on one light bulb, and the little light-dependent resistor that's watching that one sort of listens and then attempts to make a copy of the same pattern. But it also, we're going to build in a little bit of forgetting, a little bit of improvising, a little bit of maybe ignoring, and then it sort of will just propagate through the system trying to play this pattern out. You know, it's both memory and communication. I guess my thing with it is that it's a, you know, there's this idea that, you know, that years ago, like, we remembered all our phone numbers, whereas now, like, you probably don't even remember your own phone number. What you know instead is, like, how to go and get it. And so, even though we're in an age where there's lots of storage, to some extent the storage is not really the point, it's more the process of retrieving information. So it's become a kind of performance where, you know, if I ask you your phone number, you have to pull out your phone and do something. And so, like, in a way, this is just like a super crude kind of memory system in that, I mean, even though all it's doing is transmitting the same signal over and over again and kind of mutating it, sort of in a big Chinese whisper of clicks and light bulbs turning on and off. Yeah, and it sort of just is about that whole tangle of the way that we receive information now, you know. Half the time we get our facts from someone's status update or a tweet or whatever, and then we pass it on, and it mutates and it becomes something else. It becomes a kind of viral idea, or it, you know, it changes a lot. And I think it's sort of interesting as we start to store more and more stuff that actually it's not really the storage that is the thing. It's more the way in which we communicate a fact over and over again.
Trying to work out the best available tech, so the media players and screens and projectors, and with that trying to find a way that sort of separates my work by the content that would look best in certain situations, so on certain screens or projected quite large, or with varying degrees of sound projection. And then once we worked out that it would be in this space, I've been sort of, trying to work out how to distribute the works among the space and make not only like the entire room a sort of interesting connected piece, but also the individual pieces, allowing them to have sort of the interest and be able to convey something individually as well as together. Yeah, I do use a few different data sets that I access via the internet and search for freely available data, some of which is the world city population data and the information that corresponds with that, and also topographical data like the elevation of different land masses. And then I try to animate that and show it and reveal it in an interesting way over course of time.
I guess in comparison to Matt's work, it's like, you know, I've got words on a bit of paper at the moment. But it also, I guess, is a bit more explicit about the experience of sound and the place of listening and this, you know, how people really engage with sound from a human point of view rather than from a visual point of view, even though the actual work itself is quite visual. So over a week, I came in every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, for usually in half-an-hour blocks, because I can't really listen intently any more than that. But it's amazing how many sounds that you can actually hear in all of that time. It gives people, I think, accidentally encourages people to stand there and look at a work for a while in a way that perhaps other works don't necessarily. Certainly visual works, people just sort of capture it really quickly and go, yep, got it, understand, and it's like, this work perhaps because it's not so obvious what people are reading or what's so obvious that people are, like what I'm trying to say, people do take the time to read it and because they start to get a picture, I guess, fairly quickly, they build the picture themselves, you know, and they come back, you know. And hopefully in the gallery, people will, I guess, get a little bit of a picture, go through and experience the other artists' work, and then maybe even come back and re-engage with maybe a bit that they didn't listen to or read, or they'll look at it slightly differently. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an overwhelming experience, it's not ecstatic, but I think people enjoy being able to kind of understand it at their own pace.
The fundamental dialogue between space, theremin, sound and image does not take long to reveal itself. More oblique are the moving images themselves, phasing icons of construction, destruction and healing, as well as the primary color glyphs strewn about the space. These playful line drawings, rendered in vinyl and stretching across the floor and walls, are of uncertain origin and have an unfixed function. Are they the imagined ruins of the synesthete future freaks who'd actually worship here? Are they solidified sounds, waveforms, timbres and pitches, condensed like steam upon hitting a surface? Do they constitute a sort of graphic score, lifted from the page or screen, instead exploded across the architecture, to follow, interpret or snub at one's leisure? Perhaps in any case they tempt the gaze back towards the gallery structure itself, reminding us that architecture is as inherent in sound as sound is in architecture.
Yeah, the work's called The End of Arbasada, and the name is very important because it's about a transition in my practice, I guess, from making music that's quite heavily improvised and using text as an instruction to music that's a little bit more controlled using graphic notation. And Arbasada was the name of an all bass guitar band that I formed in 2005, which had elements of installation in it. So the amp stack part of this is a score from Arbasada, but the score that you see on the wall is a work I composed for this called The End of Arbasada. And that's being performed by the premiere performance of the Australian Bass Orchestra at the opening, which is an orchestra of instruments that's only allowed to play below a certain frequency. And there's also a book as part of the exhibition, and that explains that kind of connection and the history of the Arbasada project.